Hi everyone, welcome back to another edition of my video. Today I wanted to show you a really cool position for one of my games, which is kind of like a pre-warm-up for the carnage you're about to see in the next game. This was a position that I got out of a very interesting gambit known as the I think the Fajarowicz Gambit. I think I pronounced that incorrectly, but basically it looks a little bit like this. So let me just show you the lines here. And I've been looking at a video that I saw on a channel by an international master who's been recommending this gambit, but I think more as a sort of blitz weapon as opposed to an actual legitimate weapon. But I wanted to see if it would work in a classical game, and what better than me to try it on my friend who keeps beating me in all the games that we play against each other. He is now 3-0 against me, so will I get my revenge in this game? Well, let's fast forward in this particular position. This was another game that I played in, I was playing actually on chess.com in the ECF slow rapid competition, and this was my second game, and here my opponent captured my pawn on a7, and now I had a really powerful attack. So I first played rook to c5, and this is my threat. I'm going to move my rook over to h5 and then follow it up with a capture followed by a checkmate. What an interesting attack that I have. Look at this bishop. It really controls the position really well and controls that escape square for the king. So does my opponent spot this? Well, let's see what he does. He played knight to b5, which is a clear mistake as it now allows me to move my rook over. There is not much white can do here. He would have to in fact sacrifice a rook, jeopardizing the pawn structure around his king just to survive the attack. In the actual game, my opponent first threw in a check. I moved my king just slightly away. There's no point in worrying too much here. He captured off my rook. This is fine. I capture back. Rook, the bishop came to e4, thinking he had stopped everything, but I think he totally missed my crushing blow, which was rook captures on h2. He resigned in this position. Clearly, if he captures with the rook, this would in fact be checkmate. So a very, very, really interesting position, and certainly this gambit that I have been playing just shows you the potential of black's pieces in rushing into the attack. So I said to my opponent, okay, this is the game we're gonna play. My opponent, I said to him, to be honest with you, there's actually some really good lines against this, and I don't think really black has not really refuted this gambit, but in no ways is black any better in most of the lines. In actual fact, you'll find that white will still get a slight edge, although there are some really strong dynamic chances for black. So I'll show you how it started. So d4, knight f6, c4 and e5. This is actually the Budapest defense firstly, and normally after e takes you normally see this knight come to g5. It's a really trappy line that is certainly playable, and it's well, I mean, I had a friend of mine who used to play exclusive the Budapest even in classical games, and he scored incredibly well in it. It's a very very imbalanced position. Essentially, black will play knight to g4 with the idea of just reclaiming this pawn, getting all his pieces out onto really nice squares. But knight to e4 is just a whole another level of craziness. In actual fact, black in a lot of variations is not interested in recapturing this pawn on e5, and in a lot of lines I was looking at this master showing is looking at this d6 idea, just sacrificing a pawn but getting so much play as a result. So opponent played knight to f3, and in actual fact I made a slight inaccuracy in the move order. I should have played knight to c6 first. This just has the idea of just trying to recapture this pawn very quickly, even ideas of d6 followed by this, or even b6 followed by bishop to b7. So I played this slightly inaccurately and I played d6 immediately. So gambiting a pawn, and this is just a pure gambit now. I will be down a pawn. White will enjoy a nice engine approved position. It just says plus 1.2 to white, but I'm going to get a lot of my pieces out very, very quickly. So let's just see some of the potential here. So after capture, I took back with my bishop, and already I've got a threat on the cards. If, let's say, a3 was played, this is a total mistake, as now I can jump in totally by surprise. You honestly wouldn't expect this to happen, as now it will come as a massive bombshell to white. What does he do if he captures here? Well, you'll see here now that well, there's two ways I can win this. I can either come here or I can go here. I think I prefer this as a little bit more direct. I can go after captures back, I win the queen. So certainly one of the ways that I can just immediately win in the position. And my opponent, he saw this, he knew that was coming. Although a3 is sort of thematic in a lot of lines, in this particular scenario that tactic is available. So my opponent played knight b to d2. And I was a little bit worried about this. Already he's threatening to try and exchange off one of my pieces. It's something I don't particularly want to do in the gambit. I don't want to start exchanging loads of things off, as if I go into the main game, I'm going to be probably down a pawn and probably have a worse endgame as a result. So I've got to keep all my pieces on intact as much as possible. The problem for me is there's not really a great way of responding to this threat. I did think about just doing bishop here, but I was a little bit worried about after knight captures and then bishop captures, this move. For some reason this really kind of bothered me, as well, essentially got two threats here. He's attacking my G7 pawn, but also my bishop at the same time. In actual fact, I was probably worried over nothing. I've got this nice in-between check. After bishop to d2, I can swap things off. There's a lot of trades here. Quite a nice sort of in between, but I don't want to capture here first. In actual fact, it's better to play this way. The point being, after captures back, okay, I go into an endgame, I'm down a pawn, but I've got a lot of activity here. You see, I'm one move away from castling. I could probably get back the pawn, although, to be honest with you, it's still a tough position for me to play a pawn down. But I've already got ideas, potentially jumping my knight into here, throwing this, so we have to play a move like a3 or something. And I don't think I'm doing too badly here. I think I've even got just simple ideas of taking off this, maybe giving him a little pawn weakness or something to play with. I don't know. It's not the worst middle game to go into. Okay, so what happened in the actual game? So I didn't decide to play this. I just instead decided I took off the knight, bishop captures back, and now I played bishop to g5, which perhaps it wasn't as good as I would have liked. I think bishop to f4 is probably better here. The idea being it prevents the queen from going on to c2, which is often played in these sort of lines. Yeah, I think, and I mean, it's interesting the computer likes castles here at this point. I wouldn't be too comfortable castling here. I think I want to try and maintain the flexibility of my position. But bishop f5, it's certainly interesting. I mean, white just has a simple plan of doing g3, bishop to g2, castles. I think is doing fine here. Notice that these light squares are really weak since my bishop has moved here. So that's kind of why I decided to play this way instead. If this happens, I've got ideas of maybe coming here and trying to double up and create some weaknesses in the light squares or something. Okay, so in any case that happens. My opponent played e3. I did knights here. I just tried to get my pieces out to good squares. I'm now going to be castling longside next move and hopefully start an attack. So let's see how it goes. There was castles short. I castled long. My opponent played I played queen to c2. So getting it off that potentially dangerous open file. And now I played h5, so I decided I'm going to go in for the attack. And it is not easy to parry this. And Well, my opponent played here h3, and I thought this was just an immediate mistake. If he captures as ever, he's opened up this h-file where I can potentially deliver some really devastating mates. So already I'm threatening just to come shooting in my pieces, use the open file to checkmate the king. So I wasn't worried about this recapture at any point. The problem here at this point is if I just decide to continue with maybe getting my knight over here, there is a problem on this square, and there are some little cheeky little checks that he can play to maybe just survive the position. So I'll just show you an example. If I played maybe knight here, in actual fact I think he can get away with capturing here. After this, if let's say I capture back, there is this following exchange followed by this with a check. So I didn't like that prospect. That just gives him just enough time to save his position, and you can see here in actual fact white is totally winning. He's up a clear piece, got an absolutely fine position. So that is why I just decided to play king to b8 just to get it out of the way. I'm no longer running into potential checks. So bear in mind as well, this is still a threat. If he captures here, I think I'm doing absolutely fine. We did look at the game afterwards with the engine. In actual fact, white can probably just about hold this position after the capture. So if let's say this happened, in actual fact white can play g3, give up the bishop, give up the knights, but the point is this bishop now has this square it can go to. The position's even though, you know, there's no one's really winning here. Yeah, I think I've got certainly some play even in this line, although white's position is starting to stabilize a little bit. Okay, going back then, what happened in the actual game? So, after king to b8, he played rook to f to e1. And I started licking my lips here at this point. I thought, ooh, this looks really interesting. Do I have any potential to really cause some issues for black here? So I guess the idea of this was just to get it, create a slight escape for the king now. If the king can run over here, white is doing fine. So I played knight here, now getting ready to try and checkmate my opponent very, very quickly. And it's difficult to meet this. Thankfully, my opponent played knight to d4. And here, it's actually quite hard for me to continue. I decided to capture on h3. This is in fact a blunder according to the engines, and it just looks so right, this move. I thought to myself, after the capture maybe I can come in with a check, and there's got to be something here, but as we'll find out, white gets a lot of counterplay and a lot of good defenses. So he decided to capture here, and I thought, ooh, this must be good for me. There's got to be a win. I threw in the check, and this is what I missed. This queen can actually still come to this square and try and force my queen to exchange off. Also, bear in mind it will defend this weak h3 square. So my opponent played king to f1. Now he's already threatening to move his bishop back and start running the king. Well, if he can run the king away, he should do absolutely fine here. So I played king to here, so now threatening this with a check. Yeah, I was really worried about if he did this, but in actual fact, this is now winning for me. The point being, I can actually throw in a nifty, this nifty move now. If he moves the knights, let's say he comes here, I can come in with the check, king comes here, and well, I can throw another check, and there is a drawing chance here. He can't go anywhere else because this knight defends this potential escape. I just thought here, I mean, oh God, all my pieces were aiming over here. I was thinking, this has got to win somehow. So, anyway, my opponent's instead of this, he still played this. Is that right? No, he didn't play that. Sorry. So after this, right, apologies. Queen to f5. So now he just about holds, and I sort of rushed my next move here a little bit. I played g6, which is actually still the engine move. The problem now is white just about holds this position. Knight to f3. He's now hitting my queen. I can't capture here because the queen's defending it. Furthermore, if I capture this queen, he captures back the knight. He is doing fine. So I decided to take off the knight. The queen came back. His position is just about holding. I threw in the kitchen sink. In came g5. I'm now threatening to push forward and start creating a really devastating kingside attack. Look at the potential of my pieces. I've got all my pieces coming down the kingside. He plays bishop to d1. I threw g4 in. I'm hitting the queen now. And I fully expected maybe the queen to come back here, which would now be a mate in 3. Notice now check comes in. King to d1, queen to h2 check, comes here, followed by a knight to h1. This is checkmate. So instead here, he captured firstly on h takes on g4, and okay, I tried to continue with h takes on g4, but in actual fact, white manages to hold this. I would love to come in with this check, but it's no good. The king will just escape. So I decided to keep trying to play for the complications. The computer recommends this move, which, I don't really see that being any good. If I come here, well, there's not really anything here at all. Bishop to f3. No, actually maybe not that, sorry. This bishop to f3, sorry. And yeah, I think white's doing fine. He's now covering this square. The king can safely run away, and it looks like it's fine. So do I try and keep going complications? Of course I do. I played queen to h2, and well, I had the idea of maybe getting my rook along and causing some problems for him. Queen came back, I went back to here, trying to repeat the position maybe. I'm also threatening to capture here on c5. But my opponent's stronger than that. He played rook to c1, defending the pawn. I now got my other rook along. I'm thinking I've totally won this. This is over. But he just about holds on for dear life. Queen to d5 now, centralizing the queen. And he was actually also threatening to move his bishop here to try and create his own checkmate threat. At this point, I knew my position was nearly up. I nearly ran out of time as well. We were playing 30 minutes plus 30-second increments, so I was very low on time at this point. So I just played a real complicated move, bishop to g3, trying to maybe pry open the position here. The point being, if to capture, maybe I can try and create some sort of mating threat here, but it's all a bit there's not really anything here at all. It looks good, but it just isn't anything here. I mean, maybe I was thinking about this and it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. I think actually rook here would totally lose to that, so he can't do this. So how does he defend this? Bishop to f3 would hold it fine. Notice now that white has created some nice adequate counterplay. This is now a checkmate threat, so I've got to play c6. This gives him the vital tempo needed to hold this position. Queen to f5. I've got nothing here. There's all the squares that are potentially dangerous are being held. This check is nothing. King runs to e2. You'll notice now it just escapes nicely. So his bishops really hold his position and real quite heroes in this position. So anyway, I did that. He just played this anyway first, obviously threatening the checkmate. c6 was played. He played queen back to e4. I took on I went to here first. Again, trying to create some problems for him. If he captures here, I potentially can still capture. In actual game, I played this. I'm now threatening mate in 1. So still trying to go for the complications, but he holds it really nicely with this next move.
which was bishop to g2. Bear in mind, if he tries to do something like this, totally loses to this. I don't think there's any other moves that work in this position, so there is pretty much forced that move, and it's a really, really good defensive move. So he plays that. I play rook here, trying to last ditch attempt. In actual fact, I was even thinking about he could maybe do a move like this. After king comes here, trying to exchange things off. Yeah, I think actually this is still winning for white after this. Okay, he's given up the queen for the rook, but his pieces are actually still, materially wise, he's still ahead here, and I think he should do fine, although I can still create some complications. So I did wonder if he was going to go into that sort of line. In actual fact, rook came here, which is much safer, and there is nothing here. I just decided to swap off, and after this I now resigned. I was so close. So close. It's such a shame, because I think actually going back it just looked like I had an irresistible attack. In actual fact, this bishop move does not work, and I thought it would. I honestly thought this has to, you read all the manuals on how to deliver a good kingside attack. I thought this has to work, but in actual fact it doesn't. But a very interesting game nonetheless, and I don't know if I'll continue playing this gambit. I think it's certainly fun. Maybe I'll just have it open for sort of when I play rapid play or blitz, but otherwise I think in classical, I think white can probably just about hold on to a very good edge in most lines, but in actual fact it's still a very, very interesting position nonetheless. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed this. If you want to see more of my videos, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.